This Shou-Lao deck won the Snowball Showdown tournament last night, and the reason for that is simple. It's built to trigger Shou-Lao's buff 3 to 5 times using cards like Maverick, Scarlet Spider, and Jocasta. Let me walk through exactly why this works in this deck guide so you can go on the ladder or conquest and crush the opposition. Let's dive right into it. Hey, what's up everybody? Kicker of Elves here. Hope y'all are having a fantastic day wherever you're at. Last night, Marvel Snap had the Snowball Showdown tournament, and it was a battle of wits and will and Shou-Laos and Merlins, and at the end of all of it, only one person could remain champion. It was Omelas with these 12 cards. This is right now is emerging as the victor list, and as we're less than a week into the release of Shou-Lao, this tournament was a lot of stress testing of like what really is the best archetype. And granted, this is a tournament setting. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be everywhere on the ladder. It probably does. Sometimes there's some iterations people make from tournament to a ladder deck, but one thing's for certain, these 12 cards are extremely dominant, and they're all going to appear in snap packs. There's going to be a special, I don't know exactly how they're going to do it, but a special like champion snap pack where the only cards that won't be in there would be Shou-Lao because he's on sale as a season pass card right now, and Maverick because he's in seasonal season pass cards right now. You can pick up Merlin, Jocasta, Scarlet Spider, Agony, Nico, all of anything that's series 3, 4, and 5, which is I believe all of these cards. There's no series 2. Ebony Maw is not sneaking in here on sale. So following this release, I think it is best for us to look at this deck, do a card by card breakdown so you have an early edge. They just won last night. You can take this list onto ladder, onto conquest, and achieve your rank goals. I think this list, when we get into it, is very interesting for what it's trying to do with Shou-Lao versus some of the other popular lists, and it's pretty clear once you start diving into the details why it is so powerful. So without further ado, let's break down this list. So holistically, what this deck is trying to do is saying we are going all in on the Shou-Lao buffing Scarlet Spider approach. Now, Shou-Lao, we'll do a card by card breakdown, but Shou-Lao, we're going to start here just understanding what he's doing. Because he's giving the last character you played +3 power for each turn you played 2 or more cards, what this deck is trying to do is make sure it has the ability to do that as much as possible. We have a lot of 1-drops between Hood, Cord, Nico, Spider-Ham, Agony, Hood generating a demon that allows us to not play off curve, but just make sure we're playing 2. Like for example, on turn 2, you often want to be playing 2 1-drops, even if you have Merlin. Then on turn 3, you can play 1-drop and Merlin. Then on turn 4, because you've got Merlin in hand, or Merlin on the board, you can play Merlin spell 3 cost. And a lot of the decision making comes down based on whether or not you have Shou-Lao in hand. This makes this play much more like a combo deck than a mid-range deck. Understand, okay, am I going to try and pass the Shou-Lao buff onto Maverick or onto Scarlet Spider? And the reason why I think Maverick and Scarlet Spider are emerging as Shou-Lao's best friends in this tournament at the very least is that if you think about what Shou-Lao's doing, this card is obviously extremely overtuned. It's going to get nerfed. Probably going to get the Mr. Fantastic First Steps treatment and get nerfed early on in February once Shou-Lao is not the season pass card anymore. I do hope they learned a little bit from what happened with Mr. Fantastic First Steps, and when they do nerf him, they take I don't want to say a lighter hand, like, oh, I'm the biggest Shou-Lao fan, but like what happened with Mr. Fantastic First Steps, he was nerfed to a 3/4, and you never see him again except at like fringe Zombie Galacti lists. Like, can they make Shou-Lao a 5/10 +2, or bring him down to like a 5/6 or a 5/5 and keep the +3? Like, I don't want them to. I think releasing a season pass that's way too strong and then nuking it from orbit so it's never seen again, that's not the best way to go about things. But suffice it to say, get in now. But what Shou-Lao is doing by giving a +9 or a +12 buff is extremely powerful. And it can, it can be great to pass on any card. You can give Hawkeye, make Hawkeye a 2/15. That's great. But we are trying to, in this list, maximize, and other lists using Maverick, Scarlet Spider, maximize the impact of that. So if you are passing that onto, Shou-Lao's buff onto Maverick, for example, not only let's just use it's 12 power. You're putting 12 power onto Maverick. Maverick's now a 3/15. That's awesome. That's a great payoff. Maverick can in turn take that and move that power onto the next, the next card you play at a targeted level because it's an activate. So Shou-Lao's buff is basically going off twice. Now, what happens if Maverick put that power onto a Scarlet Spider? Okay, so it went from 1 buff to Maverick, 2 buffs onto Scarlet Spider, and then because Scarlet Spider can copy, the clone also 3 Shou-Lao buffs. We add Jocasta into the mix, and depending on where it's being used, you are either doubling the output of the Maverick onto Scarlet Spider, or you're playing it onto the location where just Scarlet Spider is, and it goes from Shou-Lao to Maverick, Maverick to Scarlet Spider, Jocasta triggers Scarlet Spider's activate twice, 1 Scarlet Spider clone, 2 Scarlet Spider clones, 4 Shou-Lao buffs, and that's not to say like, you might have Herbie in there doing the double its power thing, so Herbie gets to be at 212. It's very powerful. You're not doing this with Spider-Ham's activate unless things get very weird, but you could. So this is saying Shou-Lao's buff is the best, kind of mid-range for just points package we can do right now. That's not like crazy man spider stuff. So what if we lean in and maximize that? We've got a bunch of 1-drops and then Merlin and doing 3s and 1s, 2s and 1s to make sure we are playing in a way that gives us the additional cards so we're meeting that condition as many turns as possible. And it's extremely powerful. It won the tournament. It beat out variants of this that were a little bit more teched out in terms of like protecting this with like a Cosmo, let's say. I guess teched out's not the right word. This is running tech like Deafening Chord and Spider-Ham, and Shadow King for that matter. But like there was another list that was doing pretty well. I believe I think whether or not it was Clams or Rad Knight that had a little bit more protection and was running like, oh, let's get the America Chavez in here. Let's get a Cosmo to protect this location because Jocasta is a magnet for Deafening Chord. Maverick is a magnet for Shadow King. But this is the variation that came out on top. So holistically, that's what we're trying to do. Let's dive into the card-by-card breakdown so we can understand the inner workings of this list. And again, you can take this into Ladder, Conquest, and just tear things up. All right, the Hood. Probably still the best 1-drop in the game. Because we are running Merlin, we can be pretty confident playing out the Hood. Again, you want to make sure you can play Merlin because we don't have another way to get rid of this. But honestly, if you have your Scarlet Spider Wombo combo with Shou-Lao, the -3 isn't going to matter that much. The Hood is a 1-drop that gives you a very powerful 1-drop in the Demon. 1-drop giving you additional 1-drops to help you play 2 or more cards each turn is exactly what this deck is looking for. Deafening Chord as a tech piece. Deafening Chord is just so freaking strong. It can shut down opponents' Merlins, Jocastas, Mavericks, anything that's sitting out there, especially if it's alone in a location. And this can be very strong, like in the early turns of the game. Turn 2, you play out a Merlin. Oftentimes, you don't want to put that in the same location as your Spider-Ham. You don't want to be stacking stuff in there. You want to be spreading power across the board, seizing priority. Deafening Chord can just shut stuff down. Madam Web, we saw that in the finals last night. I strongly recommend you go watch the final match to see this deck in action, and it is just brutal. I do wonder if they take the -1 power off this or make it a 2-cost scale or something, just because this card is so ubiquitous. Nico is, I don't want to say Merlin at home because Nico is a very powerful card, but Nico doing things like destroying your Hood, turning your Hood into a demon is another way to like deal with it if you don't have Merlin ready to go. A turn 2, Nico into the Hood where Nico's on the destroy the card and draw 2 is freaking incredible. We are a combo deck at the end of the day here, and we want to try to draw into our combo piece as much as possible. So having the ability to destroy one of our 1 costs that we don't really care about, like the Hood, or even just like sacking a Herbie, for example, or a Shadow King if you don't feel it's going to be useless, to increase the chances that we're hitting our Shou-Lao Scarlet Spider piece is phenomenal. Sometimes you can do even crazier stuff where it's like, okay, I'm going to copy the Scarlet Spider, get two demons. Really great card. Evergreen in that sense. Spider-Ham is helpful. This could be Iceman if you want it, I think, but there are a lot of combo decks. There are a lot of like just every single card matters. We're not just playing stats. We're not seeing a lot of like super giant Sauron crap in the meta right now where they're like, oh, you hit my Star Brand. I'm happy now. It doesn't have its ability. Other people playing Shou-Lao care very much about their werewolf, their Shou-Lao, their Maverick, and the information you get to see if you hit their Scarlet Spider. Snap. Love that from Spider-Ham. Agony is a force multiplier here. If you're able to get Agony down and then play your Maverick into the Agony or your Scarlet Spider into the Agony, sometimes even just find points as a 1/3 to, free up board space and increase the power of one of your cards. But ideally you want to hit the Maverick. Ideally you want to hit the Scarlet Spider, so you're just taking that buff that you're inevitably going to get from Shou-Lao and boosting it even more. Or if you're not drawing into that, it's like, okay, I've got my 3/6 Maverick and I'm just going to throw it onto the demon from the hood, and I've also got Nico to copy that, so I'm going to copy that card, and that's going to help me eke out some victories even if I'm not doing exactly what I want to. Things like that. Herbie, I'm not 100% certain about. I think we're doing Jocasta stuff, so it would be weird if our only activates were Maverick and Scarlet Spider. I don't know if he's 100% required, but what Herbie offers is a lot of very interesting stuff. Like, normally you want to just play him as the double its power, especially with Jocasta. That'll take him to a 212 if you can do that. Because of the way Herbie works, is once you commit and use one of his activates, even if you use, you're like, oh, I need to get I need the double its power. I want that. I'm going to use it on turn 3. That's fine. Once you use an activate from Herbie, if you plan on using Jocasta later, you don't have to use it on the same turn. His text becomes this. If you activate on double this card's power, that's its text for the rest of the game. So on turn 6, if you're using Jocasta, it'll double its power again. Helps you go tall in a location, though your Scarlet Spider can certainly do a great job of that as well. But the Scarlet Spider clones, unless you are strategically filling out other locations, you don't know where they're going to go. So, Herbie can also give you +2 energy going into the final turn of the game, which can be very strong. Shou-Lao being a 5 cost, getting 8 power, so you can do something like, okay, I'm going to Shou-Lao my buff into Scarlet Spider in this location, and then I have priority, so I'm going to Shadow King their Maverick location is insane. Or I'm going to Shadow King where their werewolf is, or their Man Spider, so when they Taskmaster is 0. That sort of play line can be excellent, and because when you do that, you're playing a second card that turn, so the Shou-Lao buff gets 3 points higher. Really cool stuff from Herbie. Merlin, glorious Merlin. Just gonna sit for half a second and appreciate this God split I have here. Okay, Don, thank you for bearing with me on that. I love Merlin. Merlin's the best card that came out last year. It is the best friend of Shou-Lao. Dragons and wizards still playing nice together here. Where do I even start with Merlin here? I really hope. I feel like it might be him getting nerfed alongside Shou-Lao. Maybe bring him down to a 2/2. Maybe decreasing the +2 power from Omniversal Presence. Love Merlin here. Merlin gives you a 1-cost card to play every turn, and that just makes it that much easier to guarantee a big Shou-Lao buff. This is the card you always want to see on turn 2. Maybe you don't play him out on turn 2 if you have 2 1-drops, but this is going to let you know, oh, okay, great, I'm going to have a huge Shou-Lao buff. I'm going to really be able to get maximal power out of that. Being able to omniversal away a bad location or a beneficial location for your opponent, or just rolling against a Cerebro. Being able to once in the future your Hood, your Spider-Man, any of your 1 costs that aren't Agony after you've used them, or Agony, I guess, the demon as well, is excellent. Being able to get that extra 2 energy going into turn 6, for example, so you can Shou-Lao Shadow King, or Shou-Lao and play a bunch of other cards, or Shou-Lao and YOLO on Maverick into your Jocasta location that you're already going to use on your Scarlet Spider. Very cool stuff. Same idea with Polymorph, just turning you want to get rid of your Hood, turning your Hood into a 2-cost. That's a huge power swing normally. Even if it turns into like a Goliath, that's still +4 power on your Hood. You're happy with that, and then you can just keep throwing Polymorphs on top of it if you want. Lovely, lovely stuff from Merlin. Jocasta, the queen of activates. Those watching the channel for a while know that I'm a fan of the Activate Surfer list and stuff from Smiles over at Snap Academy YouTube. Those lists were great and got magnified with the release of Maverick. Ironically, I think those lists might have been better positioned before the release of Chamber. If you were playing Activate Surfer at the beginning of last month, the consensus was like, I'd ask Smiles, I'm like, hey, like, is now the time to play Activate Surfer, or is it going to be better when Maverick comes out? And he said, when Maverick comes out. Well, I think that's true without context. Ironically, if you were playing at the beginning of December before Chamber came out, you were having a better time with it because no one was playing Ramp, and Ramp ran Cosmic Ghost Rider, and Cosmic Ghost Rider just freaking face rolls Jocasta. Deafening Chord and Shadow King were already enough for a problem, but when Ramp was very popular, it's just like, oh man, there's so much dealing with this. When you've got Jocasta and Maverick sitting there and you're trying to do like Omega Sentinel stuff, and just like your whole game plan is like making sure Jocasta's Activate goes off, it can really just feel like you're standing there going, oh, pretty please, opponent, don't interact with me, please. And it's like, no, I'm going to play my Deafening Core. I'm going to play Cosmic Ghost Rider. I'm going to Shadow King you. I'm going to play any one of these three incredibly powerful and very popular cards. So in this list, Jocasta is still greedy, but if you can identify, oh, they're playing Ramp, play the Jocasta location, just play Scarlet Spider somewhere else. Most of the time, all you really need to do is make a 17 power Scarlet Spider with Shou-Lao on turn 6, and you send that to another location. But if you recognize you're playing like, oh, they're ongoing, they don't have anything against me. Oh, they're also doing Shou-Lao stuff, and they've used their Deafening Chord on my Spider Ham, just making stuff up here. I can just get extra greedy and get Maverick, Jocasta, and Scarlet Spider into a location and just pop off and make 2 Spider clones on turn 6 and just win the game that way. Jocasta is very face up. It is honestly quite similar to Symbiote Spider-Man in its weaknesses, even though Jocasta is less telegraphed, or telegraphed in terms of where the power might go, but it is still face up, going like, ooh, look at me. Can you mess with me? Can you do it? If not, your opponent might leave, especially if they're playing a similar deck and just drawing worse than you. But the force multiplier from Jocasta is absolutely nothing to scoff at. Maverick's got a new best friend with Shou-Lao, like we talked about towards the beginning of the video. Putting your Shou-Lao buff onto Maverick can pass that off. It's effectively turning it into 2 Shou-Lao buffs just from having Maverick on the board. That's something we're very interested in, especially if we can throw that onto a Scarlet Spider. Shadow King's interesting in this list because you need to be very careful about where you're playing that. You're not playing your Shou-Lao onto the location or your Shadow King onto the location where your Scarlet Spider buff is, unless you're sequencing in a way that you can't even do that. Like I was just gonna say, if you're sequencing in a way to make sure you're playing it before Shou-Lao, but then it wouldn't work. Like you're using this as a nod to like, yes, I'm making big points, but like, man, Spider can go over the top of me. Maybe I'm drawing worse than I want to, and I need to be proactive and just hit my opponent's Maverick or their Scarlet Spider before they're able to do it. That's what Shadow King's here for. In my playtesting of this list, I haven't used him a ton, but just saying like, nope, things that want to go over the top of you right now, there's not a lot of ongoing. There's not a ton of Mr. Negative. There's not a ton of stuff like that where it's like ongoing power going over the top of you, or Living Tribunal. It's a lot of green power. It's like Man Spider stuff. That's what's going to say, oh, cute, plus 12 power. My Man Spider is 137 power in this location. I'm going to Taskmaster it. Good luck. And Shadow King says, oh, no, your Man Spider is 1 power. That's fine. You can Taskmaster 1 power over there. I win 8 cubes. So that's what Shadow King's doing. Scarlet Spider gets his moment in the sun. For me, I picked up Scarlet Spider before I was making YouTube for the game. Thank you all for your support. In July, when Human Torch First Steps came out, KM Best posted a video. It was like a buff deck of like maximizing the buff deck stuff for Human Torch First Steps. And I kind of YOLO'd into this, being like, oh, Scarlet Spider's in the deck, I gotta try it. And I felt kind of bummed. I'm like, I probably wasted 6k tokens. This card's, this deck isn't great, and this card isn't great on its own either. Scarlet Spider, after like 2 years, is finally getting its moment in the sun. I hope this card doesn't get nerfed for Shou-Lao's sins. It was terrible before Shou-Lao, and now people are looking at it saying, oh wait, this card, like Maverick, can effectively double the effectiveness of Shou-Lao's power buff. Getting 2 17 power Scarlet Spiders on the board, in addition to other points, like 5/8's not a bad stat line for Shou-Lao for what he's doing. You've got the Demon. You've got Disruption from Deafening Chord and Spider Hand to mess up your opponent's plays. You've got a 5 or 7 power Merlin from Omniversal Presence. You've got Jocasta and Herbie stuff. There's so much green power in this list, and Scarlet Spider is the ultimate force multiplier. I don't want to right now. I don't know to say if he's better than Maverick at doing that, because Maverick can still pick a target for that as well, and it's not random like Scarlet Spider's. What is it called? Scarlet Spider clone, very creative. It's not roses are red, spiders are too. I play without the audio a lot because I play on mobile and I just don't have the audio going. I wonder if he says that. If not, it'd be pretty funny if it did, especially like the old Spider-Man going, "Friendly neighborhood Spider-Man here," as it locks off your location. It'd be pretty funny if this was saying something as cheesy as that. Anyway, that's where this is emerging right now. There was some experimentation in like the Surfer space where it's like, oh, putting the Maverick onto the Brood, that insta wins a location, and like it totally does, but maybe it's overkill. Maybe just putting maybe a 4/34 spread across 2 locations is just worth it. Shou-Lao the Undying, just it's going to be the card of this month. This is what is defining the meta right now, and it's what makes this list work. This list, I'm laughing imagining this list without Shou-Lao. It just plain wouldn't work. Giving +9, +12, +15 is normally pushing it. It's normally a +9 or +12 to a card like Maverick, to a card like Scarlet Spider that can then copy itself or copy multiple times as Jocasta is just fundamentally broken. If you can't interact with it, you've got to leave. And that's what let it win this tournament. If you are a player that picks up the season pass every month or is like picks up some season passes, get it now. Use it while you can, because this card is not going to be around in this state for long. And with that, that is our rundown of this deck guide. If you want more in-depth deck guides, meta reports on a weekly basis so you can understand what you need to be playing, what you need to play against it, card reviews that take into the account of the value of your hard-earned tokens, you're already in the right place. Hit that subscribe button. We are getting so close to our 1K subs goal. It's going to help us monetize the channel, get that sweet YouTube ad revenue, and join the Marvel Snap Creator Program. So if you've been watching the videos, appreciate what I'm doing, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel. Comment below. What do you think of this deck? Do you think it's ridiculous how many Shou-Lao decks there were? Do you think the restrictions on the Snowball Showdown deck building tournament funneled people into playing Shou-Lao lists, and there would have been more stuff going on if people could play Arishem, for example? Want to know all your thoughts on that? Sound off in the comments below. I'm Kicker of Elves. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.